Joanne, to everyone out there, Joanne Figov from England and Katrima Gabriel from Bangladesh. Wonderful. And this is the first of what we're hoping is going to be many monthly videos talking about topical topics that will help you and the world. So just briefly to introduce myself, my background, and then Katrima. I'm a long-term therapist healer the last 25 to 30 years, practice the Bowen technique, and I teach it worldwide as well. And I call my version of Bowen, I call intuitive Bowen, because I work with therapies, healing, and very much intuition, the psychic side, spirit, connect to universal energy. I see people in person here in Bournemouth, where I live, in my practice, and I also see people on Zoom. It works just as well online. I bring lots of tools into my healing and therapies. One of them are flower remedies, flower essences. I've been working with them for 20 years, and I also can transmit the energies through Zoom. One of the other things I do, thanks to my lovely friend Katrima, who helped to get me on the path and give me confidence, is in tarot. I love the tarot cards and oracle cards. So I do tarot readings when I have time. And I also call it soul divination, because tarot isn't just about ordinary everyday questions. It's also about guidance, life's purpose, etc., that sort of thing. And also at the moment, I'm in the middle of writing a book on healing, which I hope to finish this year. So that's a little bit about me. And over to you, Katrima.
I'm Katrima Gabrielle, as you know, Joe. So yeah, I'm an intuitive therapist. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. Joe has been working in her line of work for so long, and she's so beautifully presented her work there. But I think you guys will have no idea how deep Joe goes. Joe goes very deep. So yeah, I'm an intuitive therapist. I work with telepathy, remote viewing, and I look at trauma issues of my clients and where they stagnate in life. It's something that I know everybody can do. I didn't realize I could do it. I mean, I've only learned that people can do it after I started doing it. And I found that everybody has this ability of telepathy, remote viewing, psychic ability, psychic awareness. But when I started, it was pushed by trauma. My life was very traumatic, and all of this gifts that we all have opened up for me in a very traumatic way, and it took me 18 months to actually just accept it. But now I love it, and I work with clients all over the world. I used to live and work in London, and then now I've moved to Bangladesh, and I love living here. Have a lot of clients here from this part of the world, which I never had before when I was in London.
Yes.
Now I've retained those clients from the UK, US, Canada, Europe. But then I've got the added bonus of having some beautiful, beautiful people who work with me here. So that's what I do. So yeah, that's where we're coming from. And today I think we're going to be talking about so many areas that people are feeling very, very they're feeling stagnation, they're feeling pushed, they're feeling pressure and a lot of stress. And I thought Joe and I would be able to bring a series of videos over the coming months, one a month, maybe two, if we get really enthusiastic.
Yes.
And we thought it's high time that we started to kind of start having a conversation, because a lot of people, Joe, they're going through things in life which they're kind of really confused about why it's happening now, why the expectation of things that's going on in the world, why are they feeling this huge push right now? What are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. Because I've been seeing people for so many years, I've noticed the last 15 years, the last 5 years especially, there's been this complete overwhelm. People are overwhelmed. There seems to be so much trauma. It's hard to cope. And the last 5 years, the people I'm seeing, there's more stress, more trauma. People need to talk more than actually do the work. Um, and yeah, I think that what you and I want to do over the months is give lots of tips and techniques and tools that people can use to help themselves very much, because there's a feeling also of the world's changing, the energy's changing, and therefore the work we do is changing. One of the reasons, besides the intuitive Bowen that I do, one of the reasons I developed in the last 5 years or so my golden DNA therapy or golden DNA modality is that I realized that we need to work in healing on so many different levels. So obviously we're all working on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And I developed the golden DNA because, as I say, the last couple of years, people coming, finding it very hard to cope, and their bodies and their energy field are in overwhelm. Are you finding that as well?
I am finding that, and I think much of the time, stress has always been a part of our life, in, decades or centuries, really.
Yes.
But I think what's happening now, Joe, since 2012, there's been a huge rise in the consciousness of people globally. And it started way before then, but I think the acceleration was starting to be felt, because if you think about it, all the spiritual communities in 2012 started to blossom. And I think people were looking into yoga, meditation, and quiet times and stillness and that kind of thing. And now I think the last 2 years being locked up has kind of forced people to go into themselves more, because they've had so many months and years now of isolation. And I think people are beginning to only now go inwards. And I think people have always fought not to do that, because it's a scary thing when you start to go into yourself. You find things about yourself you don't like. And I think that's the place to start. I've always said that when people say, how do I get myself? And well, you can't Google yourself and find out about yourself. You've got to go in and dig deep into those dark recesses of your heart and your soul in order to find out who you are. And that makes people run.
Because, of course, yes.
In the mirror, when you don't like how you look, you don't want to look at the mirror. So when you don't feel right about yourself, you don't want to look inside, But I think people, when they start to peel parts of their external lives away from them, I always tell my clients that there's a part of you, a bud. I call it your inner child. You will love that inner child, because that child is pure within all of us. What we've done, the things that we don't like about ourselves, we have built through trauma and abuse and hurt and arguments and family, problems and issues. And when you put those things away, you are still you. And you've literally covered your vulnerable parts of you with ego and, that kind of thing. That's the parts that you don't like. So why not go internal, peel back a layer at a time, and you'll find yourself stronger. People think if I peel myself away, I'll be a weak person. No, that part of you has the inner strength that you cannot have with all the external things covering up that bud. That little bud,
Totally.
Yeah,
totally. I couldn't agree more. It's the age-old thing of nothing external can make us happy. It's only inside, and it's doing the work. It's doing the work. And as you said, it's that shadow side. People are afraid of their shadow side. But it's only when we go deep and do the work, and we do the release work, and we look deep and actually face our shadow side and accept the fact that we've had trauma, and look at it and don't brush it aside and think, oh, I just have to be strong. We really have to work on ourselves to bring the light up, and to get our energy clean, clear, and balanced.
Yeah, and I think people have tried it the other way, where they've ignored it. They've ignored their inner child. They've ignored their vulnerabilities, and they've tried to strengthen themselves with, the way they are, the personality. And I think they've tried that, and the time is such now in the world that no longer works. Maybe it worked for a while.
Yes.
maybe that's why people built walls around themselves, and it worked because they were able to hold themselves in a manner where they seemed they could keep people at bay by being a little bit aggressive, a little bit, loud.
Yeah.
But I think the quiet strength that people forget that they have can only be found when you let go of that aggressiveness and that, the ego, and the management of your emotions is so important, not suppression,
Yes.
management.
No.
You
Management.
Yeah. And I think that's where people are now, because what worked for them before is not working anymore.
No, no, absolutely not. And in fact, you've reminded me of a really good point of what's happening in the world. As you said, there's a huge rush of a kind of a consciousness raising. And with that, of course, this is chaos because, as you say, people's defenses, what they do, they're not working anymore. And we need to shift and bring on new ones. And what's also happening is community. There's this incredible feel to want more community, to build community, because people don't want isolation anymore. Community and the land. There's a drive to go back to the land, to grow food, to be together, to form communities. And I'm seeing lots of groups here and all over the world forming, and it's like little lights around the globe.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've noticed, Joe, I think people who had targets and goals in their lives,
Yeah.
they're not being able to hit the targets and goals that they were previously able, because where we're going, where we're heading in a higher consciousness, in a higher level of being, there are no goals and targets. There are no, like motivations to be at a certain level in your life.
Yes.
I've got doctor clients who are abandoning their career now. I mean, studying so hard for years, practicing and getting the experience, and finally they're sitting back and saying, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I want that freedom to be who I am. And then I've got some clients who are doctors who are just flowing with whatever comes. And I've got other doctors and engineers and accountants who are stagnating themselves by not kind of hearing their higher calling. And they're sitting back and saying, no, I can't leave my job because this is what I'm trained to do. How will I financially manage myself if I leave my career? But I think what I'm hearing from a lot more people is that when they finally find some, faith.
Yes.
No matter what they do, wherever they jump from, they will land somewhere safe. You've got to go of your fear of what's going to come up.
Yeah, totally. Totally. We're living in really exciting and difficult times because exactly what you've said. People's awareness seems to have changed so much. Where like in my work 20 years ago, basically they just wanted something physical. Their back was sore and they wanted to chat. Nowadays, I'm amazed. Just lovely people come in. And they just say, I just feel different, or something's different. I don't understand what's happening, but something's different. And when I do treatments of whatever kind, people's responses are so different. They can see and sense and feel things much more energetically. So it's like everything is opening up, and it's wonderful, isn't it?
It is wonderful. And this first video, I'm not gonna go too deep into things, but actually our DNA is being changed. A lot of people who are watching, unfortunately, they're going to think I'm crazy to be saying things like that, but our internal DNA, our very basis of who we are, we're very limited in how we've been kind of developing as the human race. We've just using 2 strands of DNA. In fact, we've got 12 or 13 strands of DNA, which are dormant. They're being activated, and unless you go in and do your research, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. And I mean, obviously there are people who do know what I'm talking about, but there's a lot more people who have absolutely no idea. Physically, we're changing. We're carbon-based bodies. We're changing to bodies, and that's amazing. And I think the changes physically are happening slower than the emotional, psychological, and spiritual.
Yes. I would say that the people listening, more people than you realize, will understand and resonate with you, because a lot of people are interested in our work, are those who know that we're going into the 5D, and that everything's shifting. And the DNA thing, absolutely, even people who can't quite understand can actually feel it, because there is this shift and the DNA is changing. What I feel strongly about is it's imperative to keep ourselves as healthy as we can, because it seems to be harder these days, because there's so much overwhelm and so much stress and so much energetic change.
And external influences as well, food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. So we need to keep our nutrition high, whatever works for one, nutrition high, movement, get out into nature, walk, periods of not just meditation, if some people find it hard, but periods of being quiet, reflective, just have space, time for oneself.
Yeah. And I think this is where the isolation, I know for a fact from 2019, when I came from London back to Dhaka after having a few months with my family in London, I came back to Dhaka. And even before I came back, I rang up my husband and I said to him that I think this time you're not going to recognize me, not by the way I look, but the way I behave. And I don't know, we as intuitives, we get guidance about how things are going to pan out for the next 12 months or 24, yes, whatever. And I had this very strong inclination of just being on my own. So when I came back, not knowing, being on my own would be easy because of the lockdowns, As soon as, yes, I came back in November, December, by March, we had lockdowns. So, it was easier for me to access that quiet time, the isolation, because the world was shut down, because we were all under lockdown. Yes. It was so much easier. And I think, Joe, what do you think? How do you think there's been a drastic rise in people's behavior and the way they are as human beings because of the lockdowns the last 2.5, 3 years? What are your feelings about that?
My feeling that there has been a huge change in people's behavior. It's almost like the duality has become extreme. We've got all the chaos and the wars, and then we, at the same time, we have this sudden awareness and the sudden consciousness rising. So, Katrina, what I'd like to ask you is, the way the world is, the way people are feeling, the intensity, the heaviness, the difficulty in coping, what would be the one thing you would say to people listening right now that could help them? I would say stop distracting yourself with things that you're running to when you should be running to yourself. I think this is a massively, it's almost like biblical. It is not almost, it's a biblical time, and people need to fall away from distracted. Just, people are literally, when they're going through something emotional, the first thing they do is pick up their phone, call friends, and go out. Or they yes, or they play on their phone. You need to, when you're especially distressed, nervous, anxious, worried, throw everything away and just sit quietly on your own. Because what we tend to do when we're feeling low, we're feeling depressed or anxious, when we find something to do, we're actually suppressing what your body is trying to tell you. So your body is trying to tell you something and you're not going to hear it. You don't want to hear it, and you run out, go out for dinner, go out to a party, go and drink, go and smoke. What you're doing, you're telling your body you don't want to hear it. So what will your body do? Your body is going to erupt in some kind of physical problem. Yeah. So you're going to have suppression of an emotion that's going to lodge in a part of your body, which the frequency will match with. So I've said this so many times, that each frequency connects to a part of your body or organ of a similar frequency. So for instance, if you're feeling abandonment issues, you're feeling like everybody leaves you in your life, everybody's abandoning you, that feeling will lodge on your kidney.
So feelings of fear, of abandonment lodges in your kidney. Anger issues, rage, when you're so frustrated and you're like suppressing your rage, it lodges onto your liver. So you will have different emotions lodge into different organs of your body. And when you ignore those emotions and you try and suppress them, because, of course, society doesn't want you to be angry. Society doesn't want you to be upset or hurt. We just put a smile on our face and do what we do. You're suppressing your anger. You're suppressing your pain. You're suppressing your despair. Time to throw everything out the window. This is the time to actually stay on your own, even if it's for a couple of hours. Ignore the phone and just go into yourself and comfort yourself. Try and listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your feelings are expressing, because our body speaks through emotions. Yeah. So when people don't want to hear it, they don't want to know it, they're building massive blocks, which not only will sabotage your health, but it will also sabotage every area of your life now, like career, family, money, finance, obviously everything area in your life will be affected by you running away from the emotion that you can deal with. And I do understand that people have massive phobias about going into themselves, because I have clients sitting here crying because they can't speak. So all of that is coming out, and that's a good thing. Even if you don't want to think about anything, but you allow yourself to feel it, it's fine, because you're getting it out. So my advice would be that, Joe, it's very simple. Just don't ignore your emotions. You don't ignore it. You jump up and down, you dance, you go out, you have fun. You're not ignoring your happy emotions. So why are you ignoring the emotions that matter more? The emotions that matter more and need to be regarded highly in order for you to have a harmonious life and a good body, a healthy body, healthy heart, liver, kidney, whatever. Yeah. What
Yes.
about do you?
Well, I love that, because we work in a very very similar way, because it's healing and health. It's on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And what I deal with every day with people is symptoms. A symptom is just a message from the body, isn't it? A symptom is it's just crying out for help, as you've said, and we can't ignore it, because as we ignore it, we become more and more ill. So I totally get that. And it's, as you say, people need to look at themselves and have time alone, and also look at what the body is saying to them, because the body's the first port of call, before they can see what the energy field is doing.
And very important to highlight that emotion is actually emotion in motion. It's feelings in motion.
Exactly.
Around your body, your mind, your aura,
Aura, yes. We can change it, and we can change it. What people don't realize, we can also change our energy and feeling in the body immediately. So what I'm going to just show now to everybody, and I'm going to do more of these energy technique and tips over the months, as well as other things we're both going to do, is how quickly it is to change the energy of our body, mind, spirit, and therefore how we feel. So, for example, this is a nice, simple, easy one. If you come, you can't see it on me with my jersey. If you find your clavicle, that lovely long bone. You can see on Katrina the clavicle. Come under the clavicle. Just come under the clavicle about an inch. And there's a very well-known acupuncture point called K27, and it's a little dent. So you can either just rub it. It feels sensitive. You can either just rub it really vigorously, rub it, and or you can just tap. So I actually like to rub it first, see how sore it is on the day, then it needs more attention. And then just tap.
What's it do?
What it does, it actually starts to help to harmonize the energies in the body. And K27 is linked to the kidney meridian, and the kidney, as you say, to do with fear.
Yeah.
And so it will just help to lower the stress and anxiety levels. And you can do it for as long as you want, half a minute, and you can do it a couple of times a day. And if you're out, just over here. If you're out and about and you're feeling a little bit anxious, this is a really good one just to do. I've just got one more thing as well. Sometimes when we're out, or we sometimes get anxiety. I know that when I'm in a big supermarket, the big lights make me feel really strange. And it's also an acupressure technique I learned years ago. You put your thumb and your index finger just on the tip of your nose, then you squeeze really hard. You squeeze really, really hard, and you keep it there for a good few seconds. And you keep it there, and you just feel that kind of feeling of
lightheadedness,
anxiety or disconnect just going. And then you, yes, it's that lightheadedness. You're right, lightheadedness. You get sometimes. It also helps to ground one. Yeah, it helps to ground one. So yes, so K27 under the clavicle you can do, and this when you're feeling like off, you just feel strange or a bit anxious if you're out and about.
Isn't it? Emotional freedom.
You're right, which you work a lot with, like just this EFT. That first one can calm people down. Yeah. Just tapping on the side of your
people. When before they go in for a meeting, I mean, the whole thing, obviously, yes. You've got to do your head and your eyes and sides of the nose.
Yes.
But in a corporate situation, if they're suddenly getting a panic attack or something,
yes.
It's very simple. Just put your hand under the table and just do a karate chop. Just, you can do it. Look, I'm doing it under the table. No one will know.
Yeah, and everyone, I can't tell you how effective and powerful that is. I've had clients here and friends as well who are in tears and crying. And just to calm things down briefly, I tell them to do that. And then they usually just look at me after that.
Really? It releases it works on the meridian points of the body, and basically it releases all the tension, and it clears your nervous system, your nerval system, and it just basically makes you feel so it's like a reboot.
Yeah, exactly. It's a reboot, because not everybody can get to see a therapist or an intuitive therapist like Katrina and have a session immediately. So often we need just very quick things that will just completely balance the nervous system and your energy field immediately. It may not last, but you just need something temporary. Yeah.
I want to say I've had such a wonderful time, and Joe and I want to really help others with tips and things like this. So join us every month, and I think Joe is going to have so many other tips and kind of drops of wisdom that comes from her, and I will try and do the same as well. And I think people are really going to, I mean, this is something that not many people will know about, that what you've shown today, and I think they can start doing it straight away. Just this part, wasn't it? It's just like tapping away. It actually does reduce the stress and calms you down. I can feel it while I'm doing it. You can even do it with one hand.
Yes, you can. You can. And what I'd like to say is it's been really lovely, and we've tried not to say too much about ourselves. At this point, we'll drop in a few things as time goes by, because we want to make it interesting for you and give helpful tips and stories that may help you in your life. So what I want to say is there's still a lot we'd like to share about our experiences that would be helpful in your world. And I know for Katrina, I'd love you at some point to hear about her work with telepathy, because I know a lot of psychics and intuitives, and I work intuitively as well, but I don't know many at all that have the gift of telepathy, where she looks at a photograph and she can say what the animal or the person is actually thinking and what's in their mind. So if you come and watch the videos over the months, she'll talk more about that, and also at some point may even share how to do it, because a lot of the way we work, everybody can do the same thing. It's just a matter of how to go about it. So there's a lot of fun there. And also at some point, it would be lovely for Katrina to chat briefly about her animal communication, which is absolutely fascinating. And I know earlier on you did mention that, I think it was about 13 or 15 years ago, you had that epiphany, you had a spiritual awakening. And I always found that story fascinating. So maybe next at some point.
That was about 22, 23 years ago, before I became...
Already. Time went so quickly, and it was fascinating. Some people, like Akim, are lucky enough to have a complete spiritual awakening literally overnight, and for others, it takes longer. And it's very much, it's our destiny. It's in our destiny. It's in our soul plan before we came to this earth of how things were going to unfold. And for Prima, she went through huge trauma in her life, and then suddenly she had this awakening. And I'm sure she won't mind me saying, her mission is to help people, the planet, the world, and animals, which is what she's been doing beautifully and authentically ever since.
Yeah, and I'm not an easy. People are so scared of coming to me sometimes because I'm so brutally honest about what I need to say. And I think, Joe, this is where you are also, you work very similar, in a similar fashion to the way I work, because you don't believe in beating about the bush. You kind of go in there. I want to talk about your tarot just for a little while, because I love her tarot work. I love Joe's tarot work because Joe's tarot can go into so many different areas, just like intuition. I mean, you can go into any part of a life and talk about childhood trauma, talk about, you know, you can actually intuitively talk to every part of your body, which we will talk about another
time
video. Yeah. But what I do want to talk about a little bit is your tarot sessions, because I've still got clients who are like saying, is Joe available for the tarot? So tell us about your tarot a little bit and what comes out from a tarot session.
The tarot, it's so popular now. Everybody loves the tarot. Everybody wants to learn it, and it's fantastic because tarot, it's a tool. It's a tool actually into our intuitive world. And the reason I've always loved it, I've loved it the last 25, 30 years, because I'm very visual. I'm very, very visual. And of course, the tarot is so colorful and so visual. And when I look at it, it comes alive. And then I get the messages. Obviously, there's a meaning to each card. And the tarot is a very ancient esoteric tool, very ancient and esoteric. Different to oracle. Oracles are really positive, are lovely. Tarot is positive, but you don't mess around with it because it tells you the truth. It tells you the truth. And what is good about the tarot, it's not just for who am I going to meet? Am I going to meet the tall, dark, handsome stranger, which we all want to know at some point. But the tarot can go really deep. What is the most useful thing I find is it can show you what the obstacle is, because you know, all of us, we want the happy ending, we want that rainbow. Where is it? But we can't get there until we overcome the obstacle, whatever it is. So the tarot will highlight the obstacle. It can also give advice on what you can do about it if you're willing to do it. What I need to emphasize hugely, and you found this as well, there is no one future. There's lots of possibilities of future, especially these days. The veil is very thin, and we create our future. And we create our future with actions that we take. So the tarot can actually say, if you carry along on that path without changing, nothing will change. If you carry along a different path and you change, everything will open up for you. So the tarot gives clarity, it gives guidance. And Katrina, you're lucky enough, you don't need to use the tarot because you get the same thing just with your intuition and your guides immediately. So that itself is fascinating.
I've always looked for something to work with, and I've never been successful at working with a tool. For a while, I tried the pendulum, and I loved the pendulum because I can make it do magic.
Make it work. Yes.
I found that I work best when I just use my mind and my eyes.
Exactly.
To people, body scanning, telepathy, whatever it is, I just use my mind's eye to do. I find I get a whole book from a person's picture.
Exactly.
What their personality is like.
Exactly. And that's you. That's your personal style. We all have our own personal style, and that's yours. And it's amazing. And you're unique. And everyone is unique. And that's what I love about people. One of the things I want to say, when I when I teach, I've been teaching Bowen for many, many years, and I always say to everybody, don't compare yourself to others. You have your own unique gift and style, and that's what you have, that's what I have, that's what everyone has who's listening. But just going back to the tarot, what I want to say, one of the new things I'm playing with now is I'm doing little readings with stones. I've actually got some stones, stones I got from the beach with a few crystals. And I'm finding that's fascinating because as I look at the stones and I do it in a formation, I'm getting huge amount of information just coming in even quicker than the tarot. So that's something to talk to you about and work with. So again, it's anything, one can cup anything, and it's whatever resonates with you that you get information from the universe and the guides.
What it is, it's because everything is energy. I mean,
exactly. Everything's energy.
So when we pick up something, it's what works for us,
Yes.
It's that energetic sense of the person or that place or that chair.
Yes.
Everything is when I touch, it's been very awkward at times because I remember going to a client's house and I sat on a chair. This was when before I had my office. I went and visited a client and I sat down on the chair.
Yeah.
I just got up so fast because I felt the essence of this person whose chair it was.
Yes.
You see, when people pass away, the frequency of the energy of the person is different to a person who's alive on this plane. Yes. And when I sat, I thought I was sitting on top of a dead man's body, like a dead.
Yes.
Passed away. I was sitting on it and I just got up and I went, oh my God, what was that? It was. And then I found out from the lady that was her father's favorite chair, and he'd passed just 6 months before. And I felt the essence, and I didn't know her father had passed away or even that he lived with her. But I felt, and then I started to rattle off everything about that man, about her father, from what he did and the cigarette he had, and, everything about this man, how he even passed away. So she was like saying, how did you do that? Are you sitting on top of my father? No, I just felt energy from his chair because that was where he,
and that brings up a really good point, because I really don't like labels, and people say, oh, you're a medium, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. And actually, no, we're everything. And I had a client once, slightly similar. I had a client and she came for some pain or something. And she said, and also I'm very depressed because my husband passed 6 months ago. And she said, are you able to pick anything up? I said, well, I don't know. I don't do much medium work, but it happens when it's meant to. So as I was working on her body, I had my hands on her body. I knew nothing about the husband. I suddenly, in my mind, I saw this man and he was wearing a suit and a certain hat and he had this car and he was showing me all these cars. And then I saw him opening a door for his wife. And I said to her, did he love cars? And she said, oh my God, did he love cars? That was his life. He adored cars and he worked with cars in his life. And she said, and I said, well, he's a real gentleman. I see him opening doors. And she said, yep, that's exactly what he did. She was so thrilled by that very simple message that's what did the healing.
But Joe, you know what? I don't think labels either. I think labels should be taken away because you have the essence of connecting with energy, whether it's energy that's living or passed away on a different realm, different plane. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you're all connected anyway. We're all connected human beings.
We are. We're connected, and you're right, it's all energy. And that brings me to another point I want to tell everyone is about timing. A lot of people say, well, why isn't this happening? Or I want this to happen, or why has everything been so difficult the last few years? There does seem to be in our lives this destiny and free will, and it's also astrological and planetary, where there's certain times we're meant to do X, Y, Z, and other times we're meant to do A, B, C. So we can't force things. What do you think about that, Katrina? This thing people say, oh, it's not working, but it's not meant to at that moment.
Maybe it's that particular thing that you're trying to do. I have this thing, Joe, where before I used to say, look, if you really want it, go for it. And then they'd come back and say, well, I'm still not getting what I want. It's still not happening. So I feel there's one of two reasons. Number one, there could be blockages within you and you need to learn something before you get that. And the second reason is you're not meant to get that.
You're not meant to get it.
not meant to get it.
Yeah.
So I have this thing now more than ever. Now we're heading towards the 5D consciousness. You cannot go after anything anymore. That's my belief. People are going to find absolute no sense in what I'm saying, because all this time the teaching was not just from me but from other people was go after what you want, manifest it, do this. I think you just got to be. You've just got to be, and you will magnetize what's meant for you.
Exactly, because our powers of magnetizing for all of us have increased.
It's the frequency is like, I mean, I'm amazed at how fast. I mean, I'm thinking of something and I'm getting it. I'm thinking of something else and it's happening, 2 days later. I'm
totally.
I'm finding it in the next half hour. Like it's
amazing.
This is frequency is like heightening. So I would say people who are not looking into themselves to open themselves up are going to lose out, because you've got to say to yourself, now is the time.
Now is totally the time. And what I feel strongly is now, especially because people understand this more, is we're human and we're soul. We're not just living as humans, we're living as our souls at the same time. The soul isn't up there, it's right here with us. So we're human and soul. And my takeaway is one of the things that can help you the most is when you need help, or you want to manifest something, or you want some guidance, you just close your eyes, and you just shift from human into your soul self, and there's the answer.
That's it. There's so much to talk about, and I'm glad that
we have, haven't we? We just been on a roll. Yes.
The other thing that I really wanted to say is before people used the law of attraction, that was the buzzword, wasn't it? Law of attraction. Everybody was at it.
Yes.
And 99% of the people didn't get what they wanted. They're wanting it. They're working on it for years. They've got they've got their mantras, they've got their visualizations going in their head. But you know what was missing? Why it didn't work? Very few people connected with their emotions.
Yes.
And very few people actually sat back and let it go. We're meant to be abundant creatures. We're meant to have everything you could ever wish for. There's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with people think because you're spiritual, you're not meant to want anything. You're supposed to be living in rags and, live in a hut.
Yes.
Not true. You can live in a palace and be spiritual. What is spirituality? It's understanding the nature of yourself, foremost,
Totally.
who you are, what you are. You truly get to know yourself. Spirituality is not sitting on top of a mountain and live on nothing. You're supposed to live abundantly, enjoy life fully, laugh, have fun, all of those things. Because when you're like that, your frequency is sky high.
Totally.
As high as a rocket could go, and higher. But you don't have to be somber and quiet, but the thing is, you cannot pretend it.
No, you can't. Because energy doesn't lie. A wise woman once said to me, she said, everyone goes on about purpose. The purpose of life, she said, is joy. And of course, and joy is the frequency. And if we have that joy and that frequency and that health on all levels, then it radiates externally.
I think so, Joe. And I think it's so important for people. I know everybody's going through a lot of stress. There's a lot of crisis going on around the world. There's all kinds of wars and financial, collapse of everything. But stay with the meaning of who you are.
Exactly.
Somehow or other, as your frequency rises, you find that nothing affects you. You rise above whatever is going on. Unfortunately, this is one of the drawbacks. The higher you rise, the more people you lose. Your friends, they won't want to know you. You lose that you used to get along with so well. because they're not going to be able to match your frequency. And
Exactly.
your main priority is to yourself, your growth, your elevation, your evolution
Yes.
in this life.
Yes.
If it means you lose people, you're meant to lose them. You're meant to.
That last sentence resonates so much, because we're on this journey in life, and we continue our whole life until we die on this journey, and it's our journey, and we have to do it. And it's about us getting to know ourselves and connecting with our soul, and exactly as you said, doing the journey, and becoming better at it, becoming better people internally, and looking at our emotions, releasing negativity as much as we can, and just doing our best within perhaps difficulties of relationships, families, and all that. And that's what we're trying to do and trying to help. And to let everybody know that when we meet again, that the videos we're going to do every month or twice a month are going to be about half an hour, because otherwise it could be too long. It's going to be half an hour, and we're going to take a topic or a theme like anxiety or depression or something, or relationships. We're going to take a topic and focus on that, and give a lot of techniques and talk about it in a way that you get kind of awareness as well.
Yeah. And I think we're going to go right into today's one's been a bit extended. Let's see if I can cut up a few points just to condense it a little bit more. Maybe put those out separately. I don't know how it's going to work.
Yes.
But I think it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you, Jo, and I miss you so much. Talking to you is like I'm sitting with you in your living room and we're just having a chat. And that's how we want it to be. We want it to be where, and maybe at one of the future ones, we can have people come into the video and talk with us and ask us questions, and maybe have an input from, maybe that can be alive on you. Why don't you tell us where to find you, Jo?
Where to find me? Well, I'm on Facebook. I've got the two Facebook pages. My normal one, Joanne Figoff, and then I've got the more business work one, which is Joanne Figoff Healing. Joanne Figoff Healing. And I've also got a private group on Facebook I'd love you to join, and that's called Soul Chat Gatherings. So I've got Instagram, and on Instagram it's Joanne Figoff Healing, and my surname is a funny one, spelled F for Frank, G for golf, O for oven, and V for violet. Joanne Figoff Healing. Yeah, V for victory. Exactly. And my website, if anyone's interested, the website is the www.joannefigoffhealing.com.
I'm going to put all the details at the bottom of the video when I do put the video out. So it's all going to be there. And people can find me on Facebook at Katrima, Instagram at Katrima, Gmail at katrima.com. And my website is being done at the moment. It's going to be ready very, very soon. And it will be there for everyone to have a look at. So we're going to end it now. No?
Yes. Look forward to the next one. Really look forward to the next one. And everybody, and I love the idea of you saying eventually have people in, have a chat, we'll have questions and answers at some point. And we'll just make it interesting. And also, as we go along, it'd be lovely for people to tell us what they find the most useful, what they want more of. Yeah. And then, so we're going to grow it organically.
Right. That's going to be amazing. So we're going to leave everyone now. Please share the video if you found it interesting, or you want to, you think you can help a friend by having this conversation with her, bring it up and send her the video. We would really appreciate that. Follow us next time, and we will see you soon.